All right, good afternoon. Welcome to EXCIA. I am so excited. I have a legend in the room here. I can't wait for all of you to get to know him. He is a legendary Bob Whitten, who is the founder of SMA Consulting. And Bob, for those that don't know, I'll let Bob will talk about himself, but believe me, but I know of him because so many builders I work with get to work with Bob Whitten, and they really swear by his by your beliefs, Bob, in profitability and making sure that that you're maintaining profits and that kind of stuff. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Roland. I appreciate you having me, and I'm humbled by that introduction.
Oh, it's all true. As I go around the country, people work with really speak so highly. So tell us, if you don't mind, can you tell us about yourself and what you do
Yeah,
and why you got into this whole industry?
absolutely. The my background parallels SMA Consulting at all. There's a few of us active within SMA Consulting in that we were all builders in a prior life. For myself, I got into the industry in the late 70s, early 80s in Washington, D.C. market, where I was working
Oh,
for a development company as an accountant. And
yeah.
after a not failed, but certainly under a brief career as a teacher, where I realized I couldn't make a living on $8,000 or $10,000 a year,
Yeah.
outside of New York City and New Jersey, where I
Oh
grew
my
up.
gosh.
And but anyhow, I went to work in Washington, D.C. for a developer for a couple of years. I ended up migrating in the early 80s during the Reagan administration to the National Association of Home Builders, who were looking for a director of business management, somebody to be
Oh,
basically a business consultant to their membership. And
I
that was in
see.
the days when computers were just becoming desktop available. We were
Mm-hmm.
switching from manual accounting systems and manual everything, schedules, et
Yeah.
cetera, to computer based. And so that was a real exciting time during the
Yeah.
80s. In the late 80s, I went to work for Wayne Homes of Ohio, which
Oh,
Dave
sure. Of
Showers
course.
is the president of of Wayne Homes at that time. And Dave was the chairman of the business management committee at NEHB that I had stewardship over for a couple of years. And he graciously told me one time, if you ever get ready to leave NHB, let me know. I did so. And he came down to DC, made me a job offer. I went out there and became his CFO
Oh,
and
fantastic.
did that for a couple of years, became the operations guy within Wayne Homes, and we built the company up. It was an on-your lot home builder. That is, that we didn't build any spec houses, and we had to make all of our money on the construction side. So we didn't have any
Right.
land profits involved. And so profitability became a real focus for us. I was there for the better part of 10 years. We eventually got up to over 600 houses a
That's
year
great.
annual. And we sold the company in 1998 to Syntex.
Mm.
And I actually, went out, did a little consulting on my own. I didn't want to go to work for Syntex. I could have stayed, but I didn't want to be the well, they call it the small fish in a big pond. I always enjoyed being a bigger fish in a smaller pond.
Well,
So I went out on my own for a little while, did a little bit of consulting because I was always um, graciously accepted as a speaker by the National Association of Home Builders. So I'd walk away
yeah.
from their convention every year with an opportunity or two to consult. So I did a little of that. And then I had to go someplace because of my no compete with Syntex after the
Oh,
sale. I had to
I
go
see.
someplace where Syntex wasn't building. And in the late 90s, there was very few places in the country
Yeah,
where
yeah, that's a
Syntex
very
wasn't
unfair
building.
non-compete. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
It was fair. It's kind of what I signed up for. And I ended up going to Alabama, building a few houses, and I started consulting Steve Maltzman, the SM of SMA Consulting. He was actually the founder of SMA.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
Steve, yeah, and Steve Maltzman was a longtime consultant to home builders. And I had met him originally when I was at NAHB, and he offered me the opportunity. First, he had a few consulting gigs for me. Hey, could you do this one for me? He kind of
Yeah.
concentrated on the smaller custom builders, et cetera, and I concentrated for a while on the the larger builders for him. And then he asked me if I wanted to open an office. And I said, for SMA on the East Coast, because he was from California. And I said, sure, let's do it. He said, you can do it any place you want. So we ended up opening the office in Orlando, Florida, which is someplace where at the time I had a timeshare. And so I moved down to Orlando. We opened the office. But anyhow, we ended up closing the office in California and migrating everything to Orlando. And we lived through the downturn, the 2006
Yeah.
bust in the second quarter on the East Coast, and then all the
Yeah.
way up to the October 2008 bust in Utah and other places. So we have a nationwide clientele, and we specialize in operations management, financial management, and a little bit of HR, not on the recruiting side of HR. We're not headhunters, but on the screening side of HR, because we have
Sure.
a firm commitment to where's profitability come from? We like to consider ourselves like profit consultants.
Yes.
But where does profitability come from? We always say that it comes from one, your people, and two, your systems.
Okay.
And if you put those two things together in the right approach with the right best practices, and that's kind of a theme
Right.
that we kind of
Yeah.
tout all the way through everything we do is best practices. And in the areas of systems and in the area of people, we say the profit kind of takes care of itself if you
Okay.
if you lock those things in. So that's what we do. We have
Right.
we're exclusively consultants and trainers to privately held home builders. And I would
Hmm.
say our target market are moderate sized builders doing 20
Right.
houses a year. Yeah, we have some that do fewer and build up to that number. Two
Hmm.
500 houses a year. We have a few that
Right.
do a little more than 500 houses a year. But
Right.
our really sweet spot is someplace between 25 and 250. That's our
Right. That
sweet
seems to be.
spot. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. I find my life is similar because builders with more than that often have in-house training or whatever,
exactly.
and don't have that need. But that's perfect. So I know again as I travel around the country, I hear a lot of Bob Whitten in my brain, people quoting you. What are some of your core principles of profitability? You said people and systems. Could you sort of elaborate a little bit more
Yeah,
on what you
sure.
dive into and what we should be doing?
Whenever we talk about, our efforts on the profitability side, I always like to take a second to define profitability. We
Okay.
really concentrate on the gross profit or the profit coming out of the sales minus the direct costs and land of where land is involved. And that is what we refer to as gross profit margin. And that gross profit margin is the hardest and most important metric to attain a good result in. And
Right.
that's where we start. That's the profit that we really concentrate on. Why is it hard? Because there's like so many moving parts in the house, and it
Right.
really involves almost all of the systems in the company. Your customer satisfaction, whatever you do to try to satisfy your customers, is oftentimes forgotten ingredient in profitability. Well, why is that?
Sure.
Well, that's because
Right.
you can if a third party is recommending you to a builder, you can get 5% more.
Right.
That's
All
why
right.
our research has shown that you can get 5% more for
Really,
your
that's
sales
interesting.
price. Okay, if a third party, i.e., a past customer, and most
Right.
importantly, trade contractor, past customers, etc., are referring you or recommending
Interesting.
you, that you can actually charge more and increase your margins. And then on top of that,
Right.
you got people that want to work for you, etc. So profitability is that gross profit margin. And when gross profit is taken care of and the systems are in place correctly, then your net profit, we never even, take an engagement to help you increase your net profit because
Really?
that just happens.
Okay.
That's through
That's surprising. I didn't know
osmosis.
this.
No,
Really? Really?
it's just that's a matter of just controlling operating expenses. And I've only ever seen one builder and they that almost went out of business because they didn't control their operating expenses.
Right.
Only
Right.
one. Okay, there's a builder in Midwest, won't even name the city. There was a
No,
builder in
please.
the Midwest back before the downturn. This is 2007, and their market was still a really good market. In 2007, they were $100 million worth of volume.
Oh
Back then, that was
gosh.
a lot of houses.
Yeah.
And they were making a 30% gross profit margin with land and with specs,
Right.
and that was a really good margin. We
Right.
met them through a Builder 20 club, NHB Builder 20 club.
Hmm.
And they were spending 30+%. They came to us afterwards and said, okay, I see we have this gross profit that you're talking about, 30%. We have that gross profit margin locked in, but we're still not making any money. And so we went out and did a couple day assessment, and we found out that they were spending over 30% in operating expenses, causing their net profit to be basically zero. And one of the things that we found, everybody likes a good story, and this is one of the better stories of my
Okay, I want to hear this. I was
25
going to
years
ask
of
you, but I
consulting.
figured you'd get there.
This builder, I met with their controller and I said, where's all this money going for vehicle expense? They had this
Okay.
fabulous vehicle expense.
I was going to say Rolls Royces or something. Or?
No, I said, how many company cars do you
Yeah.
have? And again, this is a builder that maybe had 100 employees, maybe had
Yeah,
100
yeah,
employees. Yeah, it's a pretty good size
fairly
builder,
big.
$100 million
Yeah.
in revenue back then.
Yeah.
She said, I think at last count, we had 96 company vehicles.
Wow.
I said, well, on average, that's one. I said, do you have one as a controller? Yes, I have a company car. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, that's the first controller
Wow.
I've ever heard say they had a company car.
Yeah.
Usually they're in the
Right.
office, right?
Yeah.
And 96, and everybody had a company
Wow.
car. And I said, why is that the case? Well, come to find out, the gentleman who owned the company and his president of his company, the guy that helped him run the company, had a prior life as police
Fabulous.
detectives in the city that they were now building in. So
Right.
what's the one fringe benefit that a police detective gets when he works for the police department?
They seize cars?
They
Oh, no.
get to get to take
I
the
see.
car home. They get
Right.
a city-owned
I see.
car.
Oh,
And
wow.
he just assumed that
It was
was good
normal.
business practice. So we
Jeez.
cleaned that up. Long story short, that builder
Same.
almost went out of business. And he didn't really almost go out of business. He just wasn't making any money. But he could have gone out of business if his margins dropped in the next couple of years down into the mid 20s, which was realistically going to happen because of the
Sure.
downturn in the market. And if he maintains, Bill, the other funny part of that story is on the way back to the airport that day, we went under a nice bridge. And on the side of the bridge, there was this beautiful embossed logo, built into the side of the bridge. It's this guy's company. He had
Oh,
donated
wow.
$1 million towards the building of that bridge
Well,
as part of
they,
his operating
yeah.
expenses, right? He's
Well,
civic
yeah.
minded. He used to be a public servant,
Right.
etc., but just not good practice.
No, I think it's actually interesting because a lot of the builders that we both know, I've watched the actual owners get older now and change and get more mature. When I met them, I was younger too and didn't know whether, really what was appropriate. And there's a joke that the building company is called the boat is called First Drawer, I think. It was an old joke, like their big yacht is called First Drawer because they're just not good with money, and you start getting all this money cycling through the company and you can't help but get a plane and a yacht, and then all of a sudden you realize that, that your net profit is nowhere. Can you give guidelines? Is 30% the goal, 25%? What is your,
Well,
what are the
here's an
parameters?
interesting thing that's happened since COVID. We've had this tremendous run up in sales price and in costs of building a home. And oftentimes the excuse for us as builders is that, our sales price has to go up this much because our costs have gone up so much. And that's
Right.
true. There's a lot of truth to that. However, this past year, every year we have this subset of builders that they're involved in our coaching groups. And we run this set of builders about 50 in number, and then we probably have another 25 builders that we get annual numbers from that
Amazing.
are in our target markets. And we calculate their cost of doing business, basically.
Okay.
And this is even though the state of the market is what it is today, where sales are a little sluggish compared to other market times that we've had.
Sure.
Since COVID, the gross profit margins have risen to where today there are a lot of subdivision builders making 30% gross profit margin.
Really?
And there's a lot of on your lot builders making more than that, say by 3 to 5%. And that's probably 5% overall average increase. So these are sales are more difficult, and people keep saying, well, my costs are going to catch up to me, and that's why I haven't reduced my sales price. But what's really happened, I think, in the market is costs have kind of flattened out.
Right, right. Yeah.
And,
And you got to be careful, right? Because supply and
you
demand with
you
pricing,
have to be. And
you can't stay overpriced and not sell. You've got to,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. You know, the sales price, the sales velocity, uh, you know, formula
right.
is, something that you live with every day and teach and
Yeah.
preach. And same thing with us. I think there'll be moderation in the marketplace here over the next couple of years, but it's been really wild. Probably the biggest thing over the tenure, I consider myself a bit of a historian. I don't have a lot of hobbies, you'll find out. And
But you're a
so,
weightlifter, aren't you?
well,
Are you still
I
weightlifting?
do lift weights. That's to keep
Yeah, you
me in
bench
shape
press.
and
Quite
all that. So I
impressive.
enjoy that.
How much,
But
sorry.
that's okay. But one of the big hobbies that I have is just knowing the history of home building or researching the history of home building. So if you go back to 1969, that's the first data I could find at NEHB that
Oh,
showed
really?
their cost of doing business studies. And biannually, every 2 years since then, without fail almost, they have done a cost of doing business study. And Steve Maltzman and I used to edit those for them back in the 80s or late 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
The cost of doing business study showed these are all-time record profitability numbers in terms of gross profit. The net
Okay.
profits are also very close to all-time records, a little bit on
Really?
the high side, but
Right.
we had that cycle, every 6 year cycle, someplace between 5 and 7 years from 1946 after the Second World War through 1999. We had that cycle where we had a couple of years where we were going down in market, kind of flattened out at the
Right.
market, then came back up. And
Right.
then, for it'd be 6 years with
Yeah.
hopefully 2 to 2.5 years of that at the top where the market was
Right.
good. And what we always found was if you could maintain your market share, or you could maintain your market share, if you were willing to give up 5% gross profit from the good times to the
Right.
bad times. So meaning if you made
Sure.
25% gross profit margin when the market was good and you had a 10% market share, if everything else stayed normal in the market, you would still have a 10% market share at the bottom in the trough
Right.
but your profit margin hypothetically should be 20%.
I
So
see.
that's why we were
You,
always trying to get,
well,
25%. In the old days, it used to be 25% gross profit,
right.
15% expenses,
Right.
15 to 17% expenses, and 8 to 10% net profit.
That's what I was
Because,
going to, yeah,
right. And then in the
that's what
bad
I grew up
times,
with.
you could still make 4 or 5%,
Right.
which is better
So
than
that, and that's
wages.
okay in your mind as a profit coach, which is really what you are.
Right. And
You're
that
a
worked really
profit into
good.
profit coach. Yeah.
Then we
So
then we went through
10,
that
12%.
10 years where it was all over the place because of the
Right.
downturn. And since then
Right.
it kind of went on a 5 year upscale and then we get
Right.
COVID and then boom,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
kind of in this really weird time now.
Yeah, can I jump in? Because I was
Yeah.
talking, I did an interview with Al Trellis, and but both of you are like these legendary, iconic figures. For those that know, we really know that you guys know what you're talking about. And he was talking about pricing, and he sort of gave permission to not have fixed pricing on choice luxury items in the design studio, but sometimes buyers will go there and get very turned off if you're doubling the price of a fridge or something. But you can certainly things that they don't know how to go buy retail, you can. You can charge more for. So he was like advising this sort of mental flexibility, this nimbleness with your pricing to not be stuck on something. And it sounds like you're advising as a profit coach, hey, in the good times, make 30% gross. That's great. But when the market softens, to go down by 5% is not a bad thing. You'll still sustain your position as with your market share if you adjust to adjust with the market. Is that what I hear
Absolutely.
you saying? Yeah.
And we've got some best practice processes that we use when the market is good in terms of your cash, what to do with it.
Okay.
So you won't have cash issues when you're at the bottom of the market.
Right.
One of the things that I'm most proud of over long term is I have a 10, 12 clients that I have worked with for the better part of 20 years since I got into
Sure.
consulting and it kind of stuck with me. And the bulk of them never lost money during the downturn.
Really.
Okay, so they never lost money, even though they had some legacy lots that, in 2005 they may have bought for
Right.
$100,000, and by 2009 they were
Oof.
worth $35,000.
Yeah, it's scary. Things went to dust, didn't they? I
They
mean, really.
still, right, they
Yeah.
still never lost money. I had a few that did because of legacy lots, et cetera. But we also then used the ability to take those lots to market value and really see that they were still a viable home builder. Don't get concerned that, the lost carry forwards from the income, the IRS was, a great cash
Yeah.
flow for some of the guys. But overall, I was very proud of the fact that we had a good
Good.
half a dozen guys that never lost any money
Amazing.
at
Yeah.
all in that time
Yeah,
period.
no, that is extraordinary. I know you've got a lot of loyalty, and I think anybody watching that doesn't work with you, we're going to let them know how to get in touch and become part of your programs. What are like three tips that you see the like three tips to maintain profitability, that net profit, the things that you see, maybe mistakes builders make or tips that they could make to make sure that their net profit is where it needs to be.
Sure. So again, the systems are what's important to get to net profit as a byproduct. And the number one system is for most home builders is what I call even flow. And I'm not the only
Right.
one that calls it even
Ah, I want
flow.
to hear about even flow. Good. I'm glad that you
Even
brought it up.
even flow means that you have a construction capacity of X, whatever that is. I can only build efficiently and profitably. We say the biggest mistake any home builder can ever make is to sell more houses than they can efficiently and profitably build, right?
Right, right.
That's worse
It's
than
very
not having
tempting, right?
enough houses, right?
Yeah, you get ahead of your skis and then you can't build them.
I've been there myself. One
Have
time
you?
I had a one of my divisions in Ohio. We had 16 foundations sitting and waiting for one framer to get on them. You think those customers, 15 of those customers out of 16 were not happy.
Right. In a normal
Okay.
market, it wasn't a boom time,
It
just a
was
regular
not, it
market.
wasn't a boomer bust market. It was
Yeah.
pretty normal market in the 90s in Ohio, and that's when it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was terrible. I mean, it cost me, several $1 million, I think, over the years, not in terms of direct money that I had to write a check for, but in terms of lost sales, lost profit margin,
Right.
overpay, and I had to replace a division manager who allowed that to happen, et cetera.
Right.
So even flow means that I start 10 houses a month if I'm a big builder, or one house a
Right.
month if I'm a small builder, and I
Right. One a
close one
week.
house a month. Right.
Right.
We
Right.
have a mutual client, I won't name them, in Wilmington, North Carolina,
Come name them.
who
It's okay. We give them a shout out. They're loyal
Stevens
customers.
Fine Homes.
Stevens Fine Homes. Craig
Craig
and
Stevens told me one time, he said, ever since we went on this even flow, we're doing three a week, 150 a year.
yeah.
I make more money at
Yeah.
this than I made when I was building 350 houses a year.
Exactly right.
Why?
Exactly. He's
Because
told me that too.
he was efficient. He
Yes.
was efficient and the systems worked, and that was his capacity at that time. I think it's a little higher now, but his capacity at that
No,
time.
they've gone back to sort of
Okay.
trying to retain profitability. They got not to say this in a negative way, but all the nationals came into Wilmington. They realized it was a race to the bottom for them, so they've company now where they're doing less higher margin. They're doing more infill and on your lot and being a little bit more scrappy,
Yeah.
to maintain margin. They don't want to do 200 or 150 homes and lose money. They'd much rather do 50 to 75 and make a lot of money. If that makes
One
sense.
of my
And
one of my
it all
very
comes from you, I know.
No, not for me. It comes from, where do I get this stuff? From mentors. Where that really comes from is one of my early mentors in this industry. I was a number cruncher. I was the bean counter, and I was starting to learn operations. And Harold Palmer from Fort Wayne, Indiana, was on the business management committee at NAHB. And I remember over dinner in San Francisco one night, he taught me a very valuable lesson I'll never forget, and that is why build 10 houses and make 5% profit if you can build five houses and make 10% profit,
Makes total sense to me. Yeah, yeah, exactly right.
right? And that's
Yeah,
exactly what even flow is all about.
yeah,
Maximizing profitability. And usually it's based upon, sales starts and closings or completions if you're a spec builder are what
right,
even flow is all about. But the most volatile of those that you're allowed to be is sales, because obviously you can make 10 sales in one week, even if you can only build two houses a week.
right,
You can't lie to those people that you sell and tell them when
right,
they're going to start their house unless you
right.
know. So we call it the slot schedule.
Yeah,
That's even flow that says, okay, the slot schedule is when can we start your house? And so I would prefer in my offices, we used to have it right up on the wall. We used
yeah,
to have a
yeah.
list of,
No, no.
or on a desk where somebody could turn it around for a customer and say, look, create a sense of urgency. If you could write a contract today, I can slot you into this slot in 60
Exactly.
days to start your
Yes. Yeah.
house. Then we have to get all these steps done in the next 60 days.
No,
I was
it's okay.
100% pre-sold. I couldn't even fill in my
Yeah.
slots with a spec.
No, if I can jump in, it's because I work with a couple of companies that you've taught this to, and I've seen that slot schedule. I think J.C. Jackson in New Bern, North Carolina. We used to have it on TV screen, I think, with the actual
Yep.
schedule when you walked in, so you could see that if you walked in now and it's June 2026, the first slot might not be till September. So I'm all arrogant thinking, hey, you're so lucky to have me as a client. And I don't want to be mean, but we definitely want their business. But the client goes, oh my gosh, there's a 3-4 month wait for me to even start my home. I better get my stuff together. If I want to build with you, then I better get my stuff together. And it really does create urgency. So when the sales put, in the and that's an on your land slot schedule, I think. And so, the buyer goes through the process. But if they start to drag their feet, the salespeople can say, look, I know you want to be in by this date. That slot's going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. So let's get this wrapped up. Let's get the agreement put together and the prices locked in and whatever. So they're using your slot schedule as a way of creating urgency to drive sales and get people off the fence to move forward. So I think it's
Yeah.
genius. And it also, it reminds people that this is professional, that we're not going to rush and sell 10 homes this week and try to build 10 homes. We're going to do it in an even flow to protect the quality of your future home. That would be important to
Yeah.
you, right?
I used to have this is the same way we built houses with this slot schedule, even flow system in
Even
Ohio.
flow, yeah.
And we had a competitor who used to sell against us this way. He would go, well, look, customer would come to us. We'd tell them what we could do for them. They would go down the street to him. We did build. He said, look, we build similar products to Wayne. Go down the street, get their price, they're going to tell you that they'll sell it to you for X. I'll sell it to you for $2,500 less. And back in the day when $2,500 was, two
Yeah.
2.5 to 5% of the sales price,
Wow.
and
Yeah, significant. Yeah,
a long time
exactly.
ago. And they're going to tell you they can't start your house for a couple months, and I'll start your house in a couple weeks. And they
Wow.
would come back to us, of course, and they would say, look, I kind of like you guys better, but this is what the guy down the street said. And you say,
Right.
you know what? He will probably do exactly that. He'll sell you a house because he knows we're a profitable company. He'll sell you a house at less than we do, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, he'll start your house in a couple weeks where we say our slot schedule says
Yeah.
what it says, a couple months.
Right.
But I can almost guarantee you we'll still finish ahead of him.
Really? Yeah. It's not when
Yeah,
you start, it's when you
and
finish.
who's going
Exactly.
to be paying the interest, all these kind of things.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
say we're
And
just more,
construction loan more.
but yeah, if you want to go down the street, if that's the
Yeah.
main difference. And we did that and we were okay because we were the professional guy,
Yeah. Well,
because we
that's
kind of
what I
knew what was
advocate.
happening.
Yeah, that's what we're selling quality. We're not selling, if you're looking for a cheap house and, don't care about the experience, then that might be the builder. I don't know if I've ever said it quite so bluntly, but that's what we're inferring. If you want a quality home built on time, then
Exactly.
we're the right company for you. And you show that more than tell that, I think, in your process. Well, that's amazing. So even flow, I know that every builder that you work with, that we work together, are disciples of that. Any other tips on profitability that you can share on this podcast that people can take with them?
Yeah, I
Oh, wait a
think
minute. Let me go check my company against
the
this.
next
Yeah.
one, actually, if I could give you two more, but they're very much
Please.
related.
Okay,
And
go.
they oftentimes are not considered part of the profitability equation, but they absolutely are. The
Okay.
first one is getting the right person in the right seat on your bus.
Use people. Okay.
So,
How
so
does
it's
that
people.
affect?
Remember, we said in the
Mhm.
beginning, our big
Yeah.
focus is
People and processes.
profitability and people, with the systems being how those two things join together. The right people are important. You have to have the person who's got the right personality for the company that you are, for the position that they're going to occupy. The experience is important. We all recruit and we all hire based on resume oftentimes. This person has this amount of experience with this builder, etc. And that's important. But I say that, some of the best professional American football players, since you're British, I got to clarify that.
No, thank you. Yeah, yeah. The World Cup just
Yeah.
started, so that's even more confusing. I'm really
The
watching soccer all the time now,
Yeah,
every day for the next
exactly.
30 days.
So
Yeah,
the
go
best
USA.
American football players didn't go to the best colleges sometimes, the
Yeah,
big football
yeah.
schools.
Brady
Some
and
of them
those
come out
guys.
of Alabama and other places
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the renowned powerhouses, Ohio State. But some of them come out of these small schools. Where do you find them?
Right.
Just because you find in the combine, the NFL combine, where they go
Right.
out to usually Indianapolis or a couple other
Indiana, yeah.
places, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
do vertical jumps and horizontal jumps, and they run the 40-yard dash, and they do 225-pound bench presses for reps and all
Right.
these
Like
things
you
to
with bench
test
presses.
the very best. A lot of guys are looking for the very best athlete. And once they get that best athlete, they can train and develop them. And that's what we oftentimes look for. Look, it's not always the most experienced person. Sometimes the experience is actually a hindrance because we're trying to teach them a system that's
True.
unique to our company. And if they
Yeah,
come
yeah.
from D.R. Horton, where they've
Yeah.
worked for the last 10 years, sometimes that's hard to break them of
And
D.R.
train
Horton
them. Yeah, yeah.
habits.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And they also are used to having the resources available that D.R. Horton had available for them. And
right.
they can't
Right.
understand, well, why don't we have all this stuff? Well, because
Right.
we can't afford it. Right.
Yeah.
Or
I
we, whatever.
Yeah, I was at a recruiting event at actually I think my son is going to go there now. I've forgotten that until today. But it was a recruiting event and there was Coach Howard Schellenberger who
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
took on FAU and I was at the same event and I was an admire fan. I'm not don't know much about football, but I remember the Miami team. Anyway, so and I said to Howard, my buddy Howard, when you're recruiting, what do you look for? He said, I want them tall, fast, and coachable,
Yeah. There
which
you
I thought
go.
was great. So you can't make somebody taller or faster than they are, but they got to be coachable. I know for salespeople and sales managers, coachable for me is very important. Sounds like it's the same thing for you when you bring people on as well.
Absolutely. So the screening process for hiring is a big part of your eventual profitability equation. The second thing is
Okay.
once you get the people on board, the incentive compensation system and the what
Okay.
we call growth reviews, but a lot of people call performance appraisals
Right.
system is also now that's the next
Good.
step in
Perfect.
assuring that they're continually developing the traits, the habits, the skills. Martin Friedland, an old consultant that used to consult for our company, used to call it CASH, KASH,
Right.
knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits that you have to have
Yeah.
to become the
Perfect.
best at this specific position for an
Right.
athlete or on the team,
Yeah.
or in our case, the position that they occupy on our depth chart or organizational chart that we
Fair
have,
enough. Right.
in their area. Because you don't want to have a salesperson, screening wise, we don't want to have a salesperson in the construction area. We don't want to have an estimator in the sales office, in terms
Right.
of personality. And then as they further develop, we want to get the very best out of them
Sure.
without having to lean on them.
Right.
The
Right.
difference between my generation, which is, the generation after yours, and my father's generation before me coming out of the Second World War that was kind of like the type A personality leadership
Right.
that they had was,
Yeah.
why should I do it? Because I told you to
Right.
do it,
Everything
and I'm
revolves
the
around that,
boss,
that
right? And
fearless
I'm
leader. And yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
And
It's
in my
thank goodness it's
generation,
changed a
it
lot.
became much more do it because let me explain it to you how it works and why
Right.
it works and where you
Yes.
have to go. And it's even
Right.
more, each subsequent
Right.
generation is even more of that. A little bit more
Right.
hand holding, a little bit more training and development. And today, I think recruiting is tied not only to what I have to offer you in terms of a job and a compensation package and benefits, et cetera. It's what do I have to offer you in terms of career development
Yeah. Yeah.
and where
I,
can you
I love
go?
that. Yeah. I look for people that are internally motivated. You try to test for it. It's hard to test for. You just got to observe it really. But people that get up early, do a lot, and want to fix things all the time. That's great. I like your program, but what if I could do? Oh, that's brilliant. Go improve it. Go get there earlier. Go visit more realtors in my world. Go prospect more. Go do
Yeah.
more things to do more follow up. There's no boundaries. You're if you think of it as your own little franchise where what you do impacts the income of the company. That's wonderful. Again, in the back office, it's harder for me to understand that part of it, which is where you thrive in how you motivate people to take ownership of jobs and reward that. So
And
that's an interesting part.
people will take ownership of the job that they have when the job that they have matches their basal personality. So
Okay.
like an accounting person or an estimating person, when you provide them the environment within which they can utilize their skill set, which is a lot
Yeah.
of detail orientation, they love
Right.
to get into the
Right.
granular level of what's happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
then they really enjoy. And when you give them not false praise. Sometimes I
Yeah.
used to say I could go into my sales offices and high five all the salespeople and they would enjoy
Right.
it whether I was sincere or not.
Right. Right.
Just the
Yeah.
recognition they liked. If I
Yeah.
went into my back office accounting group where I might have had, a half a dozen bookkeepers in there and a controller and started high-fiving people, they'd look at me
Yeah.
like, okay, what are you doing down here and what do you want out of me?
Yeah. What do you want? What's
Better,
wrong? Well, I'm not getting a high
better.
five. Is am I getting a pay
Right. The
cut?
better approach was to go look over their shoulder and say, what are you working on? And get interested in what
Yeah.
their task
So,
at hand is. Yeah.
okay. All
Good
right.
stuff.
So people process, even flow. Was there one more that you were going to mention before we? I would love to
Just
talk about
the,
your summit that's coming up
I
at the end
think,
of
the
September.
combination of recruiting for people and then motivating them with regular growth reviews, which show them what they still have to work on, what they're doing well at, compensating them based upon. I like growth reviews or performance appraisals that are specific to the position. So it takes
Okay.
a little bit of work, meaning that I,
Yeah.
got one for salespeople, I got one for
Oh,
construction people, I
interesting.
got one for
Yeah.
warranty people, with
Right.
different metrics that they're
Right.
responsible for. I can't tell my construction manager, I'm going to reward you on the gross profit of the company, but I can
Right.
tell my construction manager, the guy that builds a house in the field, that I'm going to reward you based on the variance from budget that you have responsibility for, which
Nice. Okay.
contributes,
Yeah.
very directly, but this he can control.
Right.
Now that's within his grasp. He writes the variances and
Oh, her
he
grasp.
does
Yeah.
that, and that contributes to our gross profit margin. So he can
Yeah.
relate
Yeah.
to that better. And
Well, at
so,
time, if it takes
yeah,
too long, if it's dragging their, if he or she is dragging their feet and not getting things done on time, then time is money.
exactly. And if
More
you do it
custom.
that way, and everybody at every position makes incremental improvements, or proves that they can't and make improvements, and they, unfortunately, you got the 80-20 rule. 80% of
Right.
the people that you have are going to be capable of doing the job that you need them to do forever, perpetually. 20% of them probably need to be replaced.
Oh,
And
is
you
that right?
just
Okay.
you just haven't identified them yet. Or, the 80-20, it
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
90-10 in in a really good organization, it might be ninety
Yeah.
ten.
Yeah.
But I think we
Yeah.
can all identify if we had 100 people that there's, 10, 15% of these people probably, who are going to be the first ones. I always tell somebody says, well, I don't know if I can identify them. I said, well, okay, put yourself in this scenario.
Oh, it's pretty obvious, I think, normally.
Your company is not making the money it should make. Your just revenue is
Right.
just not there. You have to cut overhead. And we've identified that 80% of your overhead is in your people.
Right.
So tell me what 10% of the people that you have on your team right now, who would you get rid of? And you got to do it before we leave this chair. And you can
Oh,
start
well.
to identify, you really
Yeah.
don't do it, but you
No.
start to identify the underperformers. And you say,
Right.
now, why are they still
Or
with you?
jobs that aren't needed, maybe that used to
Right.
have
They're
in
either
higher
not
capacity.
needed or they're not doing the job, but somebody else
Right.
is making up for it. Or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
profit margin
Yeah.
itself is making up for it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No.
Sometimes we get fat and sassy when the market's good and
We
we
do.
make really good money and we let our operations slip. We do that with job costs.
Right. Or we add too
Margin's
many
so
people.
good, or we add too many people.
Right.
We allow because the cost went up a little bit. I raised my sales price, and because the market's good, people are still buying the house, but
Right.
I'm not doing anything for cost control at the other end. When's the,
Right. Is there, I know I've heard of formulas for the amount of employees per profit, gross profit, and you mentioned a company that had 100 employees before. I think it was the same one that was losing money. Do you have your inbuilt formula for,
I have
amount of,
it's not what I want to do right now. This is a number because of the rapid run up in sales price, but this is a metric that has changed greatly in the last 10 years. But it's one worth monitoring on a regular basis. And your number might be different from company to company and business model to business model. It's what we call the productivity ratio. How
right,
many dollars of revenue are you generating per full-time equivalent employee that you have?
right, right. Yeah.
Right? And it used to be subdivision builders, we could be at 1.25 million and we knew that was good. And for custom
Oh,
builders, something approaching $1 million, or on your lot
Oh,
builders,
okay. I thought it
something
was a lot less.
approaching
So
$1
I
million.
didn't know that.
But today
Wow.
it's a little higher because
Oh,
the truth is the house that used to be $350,000 in a lot of markets is $600,000 today.
definitely. Yeah,
But
it's hard to
the
sell.
workload to put it together is exactly the same as it used to be.
Right.
So then we have to go back also that's a real rough calculation. The next calculation is by position. There is a metric, and I won't go through the whole list, but like
Yeah.
construction managers in the field for a subdivision builder, their compensation package, not counting benefits, should be 1.5% of the revenue that they produce. In other words,
Right. Okay.
they build $5 million worth of houses. They should be getting compensated $75,000. If that formula
Okay.
works for you, then you're within, range.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that. Okay.
every position has a little bit different metric
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you just got to kind of figure out where it's just like with sales folks, how much
Yeah.
should we be spending on commissions or salaries or some combination?
Right. Right.
And we usually say about 3% total, and
Right.
usually in-house is 1 to 2% of that, depending upon how much
Yeah.
co-broke you have,
However
right?
you split that, whether it's a
Yeah.
base now, because base salaries
Very
are really the
similar. We
rage.
just drill it down to
Yeah.
estimators, drafting
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
warranty
Yeah.
folks, etc.
Yeah. I tend to work with companies like that. We sort of back into it, what we expect the sales to
Yeah.
be, and etc. And the dollar volume. Well, amazing. So the ways that we can work with Bob Whitten, people can reach out and join one of your builder groups, or are you at saturate? Are you
No,
full with your builder group?
matter of fact, we're getting ready to we've tried several times in the last few years, but because we don't touch the custom builder space as much as we do the more production oriented builder space, we failed to put a custom group together, but we're actually going to try in the second half of
Oh,
2026
good.
to put a custom builder group together.
Sure.
We also have some room still available in our coaching groups. They're very similar to Builder 20 clubs, except we also meet on the phone once a month. We meet twice a week, twice a month, excuse me, twice a year at the location of one of our members, and have a
Perfect. Yeah.
2-day meeting. Very similar. We crunch numbers for them. We look at their
Right.
cost of doing business and compare it not only in their coaching group, but across the coaching groups that we have. And we have those
Okay.
available. So we have spots in almost every group.
Good.
A lot of it depends upon your geography. We can't
Yeah.
have competing builders in the same marketplace, in the same coaching group.
Right.
And so, like right now, I'm trying to balance Oklahoma City, where I have a whole bunch of builders from that are
Yeah.
trying to get into coaching groups, and
I
I'm
can
pretty
understand that.
saturated. But
Yeah, it's interesting.
overall, that's available. So that's one thing we do. And then we do a lot of training, a lot of virtual. If you just send me an email, I'll sign you up, put you on it's
Okay.
free, what we call the inner circle, which is
Sure.
it's basically our mailing list. And our mailing
Okay.
list, we send out free webinars almost weekly. We do free management messages on a monthly basis that come out via email, and then
Okay.
we advertise. In part of those are not pure advertising, but a lot of times we advertise our training that we do, and we advertise our summit conference that we do annually down in
That's what
Orlando.
so let's talk about your summit now. So we've talked about how we can work with you, and you can coach people, and then you also your builder groups, which are invaluable. And tell me about your summit. I'm going to be part of it, so I'm very excited. We're joining forces, as it were. You're doing all the admin and construction. I've got the sales and marketing day, I believe, and
Yeah,
mainly.
we're
So I'm
excited
excited.
to be working with
But
you
but
on this year's
well,
conference. And
thank you. We are too. So tell me about the idea behind it. Like what
well,
were
the
you trying to
official title
solve?
of it is Best Home Building Practices Summit. And that's really what we're trying to do. Right back to our philosophy. How do we get your gross profit margin to the healthy level it needs to be? People and
Right.
systems. And that's what we offer training on. And we have every year we typically will have 25 to 30 educational programs of an hour
Right.
plus.
Yeah.
We start with this year it's in Orlando. It's on
Yep.
Tuesday night, September 29th. It
29. Yep.
starts with a
Yep.
dinner and a keynote address by the Chief Information Officer from Adobe is going to
Oh,
be there to
really?
talk about AI.
Interesting. Hmm.
Esteban Rocket, his name is, and he's going to be there doing a
We've
keynote
heard good
address
things about him. Yep.
on Tuesday night. Then on Wednesday all day, we'll have a whole series of classes. Starts with breakfast. Thursday, it goes until about 4 o'clock, and we adjourn so people can make it back
Yeah.
home. So we got 2 full days of
And
classes, a dinner and a keynote address on Tuesday night, and it
right.
goes
And
through
it's in
October 1st.
it's It's in Orlando at the Wyndham Resorts there. So that's actually a good value
right next
hotel.
to Disney Springs. You know, it's
Yeah.
one of the
Lovely
Disney
location.
hotels. So
So
it's
bring your
a
family. And I
yeah.
think what's different about yours, from what I can understand, any program I've ever been on, in fact, um, uh, is that well, A, you got a lot of speakers. There's 33 at last count, I think, 33 speakers. So there's a lot of variety, and there's a lot of people from companies speaking about their experience. On my program, I have a couple of managers that will be speaking about social media and their exact use. But also that it's for the whole company, that your idea is not just for builders or not just for sales and marketing, but you're everybody. So could you speak
Yeah,
more
we
to
have
that
thank
concept?
you. Thank you for bringing that up. We have four tracks that we
Four
do.
tracks.
One is sales and marketing.
Okay.
Okay. The one is leadership and financial management, kind of pull
There we
those
go.
together. One is
Yeah.
construction management, and the
Okay.
last one is pre-construction management.
Oh, wow. All
So
right.
plan development, pre-construction
Yeah.
management includes purchasing, estimating, drafting, plan development, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Construction management includes warrant, obvious construction management, warranty, etc. Financial
Right.
management includes leadership. This year we're doing a lot of AI related things
Sure.
sprinkled
Sure.
through all of it
It's
because
very
AI
popular.
is
Yeah.
so popular right now of everything that's going on. But you name it, it's out there. And we have sponsors from a lot of the software companies are there that are
Hmm.
showing their goods, but they're really talking. We don't have like, you know, Kohler or anybody like that sponsoring the Delta
No.
faucets
Yeah.
or, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing like it. But we have business management products. We'll have some
Right.
warranty products like Professional Warranty Services Corporation is oftentimes there.
Okay. Good.
Contractor staffing source is oftentimes there, they're
Yeah. So
recruiters
it's a,
for that.
a little bit for everybody, but I think what I on a more holistic, more uh, zooming out, I guess what's nice is if you're looking for a retreat for the whole company as a reward, it's educational, but it's in a lovely resort location. It's a nice hotel with the pools, and you can bring the spouses or family if they want to come down for vacation too. If that's feasible. But there's something for everybody. I know even the way you've priced it without getting overly specific is you pay for the first person, but then the second person, the amount goes down a lot to
Yeah, it's
encourage you to bring
almost,
the
it's
whole
like
company.
half. It goes down to
Yeah, which is
almost
it's
half
very
what the
significant though.
first
The only
one
one I've
is.
ever seen do that. So that if you're debating, should I bring my construction manager or my back office bookkeeper or whomever, because it's so affordable, it makes a lot of sense to bring the whole company, and it's a real treat for them to come to Orlando and see these different speakers speaking in their medium that they want to learn about. So I think it's a genius idea. I'm very proud to be part of the sales and marketing day, but everything else I think is just such a clever idea.
Well, thank you so much for the endorsement. And yeah, I hope to
Yeah,
see everybody there.
yeah,
Go to besthomebuildingpractices.com is the website for
yeah,
the summit.
yeah.
And
And I'll put a link on here too.
our website is SMA consulting.net or
Yeah.
SMAOPS.com. That gets
All
you to the
right.
same website.
And one last tip, if you had one tip for people to pay attention to, what would that be, Mr. Whitten?
The first tip is to feed your cat so he doesn't bellow in the background of
Is your
while you're
cat
doing a
coming in? I figured there
podcast
was something going on.
with Roland.
It's okay.
But
I love it.
the biggest tip, I say the number one tip that I use when I talk to people about, tell me, 30-second elevator pitch about your business. I said, boy, there's so many I could offer, but probably the most profound one is hire slow, fire fast.
Okay. Right. Take your
That's
time, but if they show it's not working out, don't mess around.
don't mess around. I mean, you're
Right.
better off, getting for yourself and for the employee. Typically,
Yeah.
they're better
Yeah.
off. I've never really seen somebody who got involuntarily terminated from a job who didn't turn out to, if you'd done a reasonable job of hiring that person in the first place, they didn't turn
Yes.
out better 3 to 6 months later at their new position, wherever they went.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like you. I do a lot of I have a process in the screening for recruiting, and you have to love yourselves enough to go through a process, and get the right people. And there's a Maya Angelou quote about when people show you who they are, you should believe them. And so if you get a problematic person, I've had them. We've had people that quiet quit, and we don't even realize it, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, it's been 3 months of this stuff, not just 3 weeks. And so you're right. You got to let him go and move on. Well, listen, Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time today. I can't wait for my audience to learn from you and to get in touch with you as well and work with you. And then hopefully we'll see a lot of people at the summit at the end of September, 1st of October. I can't wait to see everybody in person. Thank
Well,
you so much.
thank you very much
Thanks.
for having me, and I really enjoy our time together, and I look forward to seeing the folks in Orlando as well.
My pleasure. We'll see you there. See you in your swimming outfits. Take
Bye
care.
now.
Bye.